Gone are the days of marketing businesses with boring, bland marketing content. Now it's people-centered.
Yeah.
It's people-first approach. If you haven't got your culture nailed, you're going to really struggle to do that well.
Culture is always on. I, started studying positive psychology and thought, why are we not applying more of this to the workplace? Like, know your purpose, people need meaning. Let's look at people's strengths, not people's weaknesses. It's about finding the right environment for you, isn't it? You could be performing really well, but you could be an absolute dick. Or you can completely be embodying the values, but you're just not performing. So right now we have 3 generations working together. By 2030, it's predicted that 58% of people in the workplace will be Gen Zers. Gen Z are the most stressed generation, whether we like to hear that or not.
That kind of attitude that the younger generations seem to have. You don't need to work hard to get ahead. Oh, I need my time out. I need to do less hours. It damages businesses. And I do think the people that are like that, they're going to get their comeuppance at some point, because there'll be people that do want to put the effort in, that are happy to put the extra time in when needed. If you want to get ahead, you've got to put the work in. Doing less does not mean you get more out of your career, in my mind. If you don't care, if you're not showing up, if you're not putting effort in, then you're not going to get ahead in life. When I was working at agencies, and we had pitch teams working till 2, 3 in the morning, sometimes all the way through the night. And that was the norm. That was the reality. And we were passionate and we wanted to get ahead. We wanted to win that client. We wanted to do the work. Now, if someone's got to work till 6:30, they're pissed off. Hi guys, and welcome to another, what I know is going to be awesome episode of Marketing the Madness. Now, I am here with the fantastic Janine Jacobs, who is the co-founder of HappyHQ. And today we are going to be talking about, culture. But what I really like, in fact, Janine's just been telling me, but we're going to be digging into, I guess, the similarities that there are between your kind of the marketing customer journey and your employee customer journey, and how I guess you can kind of apply the same marketing rules to your culture and keeping your staff and people happy, which I thought was really interesting.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much for having me. Let's talk about the irony as well that I'm on holiday and I'm here talking about culture.
I know. I feel really bad. I dragged you in because I was like, well, you're local. We've been trying to get this podcast in for ages. So just so you guys know, we're recording at our head office in our lovely podcast studio. And Janine happens to have family close by. So we're staying local. So it's kind of worked out.
So here I am on holiday. But when you love what you do, there you go.
Yes.
So back to what you were just saying, I guess. Yeah, exactly. Like my background was in PR and comms. So, you're often you're talking about the customer journey and how important it is to get insights from your customer and how important it is to engage them at different levels. Like, let's listen to them. It's exactly the same when it comes to culture. And so I transitioned into becoming a co-founder of HappyHQ 3.5 years ago with my amazing co-founder, Louisa. But there was definitely a journey that got us to here, and sort of, I guess, a background in PR and comms and working in branding agencies. Definitely, we're using exactly the same method.
I love that. And I love the name of your business, HappyHQ.
Thank you.
I was just thinking that earlier. I was like, I love that name. I wish I'd come up with it. It's brilliant.
We always get told that. And the funny story is we were going to be called Work Happy. And then we realised somebody owned the domain .co.uk. So we ended up having a quick plan B, HappyHQ. And I'm so glad we stuck with it because everybody understands happiness. And I think when it comes to workplaces, they could be so much more happier. And so, it just works.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like in the current economy, and certainly even in my business, having a happy culture and trying to, it's hard, it's tough out there at the moment. The economy is not in a great place, which is putting pressure on businesses. There's redundancies happening everywhere. The property market isn't great. It's, we're all struggling when it comes to, not all, but a lot of people that I speak to are struggling when it comes to cash, whether that be in business or at home. So having a HappyHQ feels more important than ever, and certainly something that I want to learn a bit
Yeah.
more about today, because I feel like there's some things that, you know, when the pressure's on, it's really easy to let, you know, pressures kind of mount and the culture stuff ebb away. And that's when you lose people. That costs you money. It's hard to find brilliant people. So, you know, having a brilliant culture means not only do you get to keep your staff, but also you do better work. People enjoy their jobs. They're happy, which is super important. So I think there's lots for us to cover today. And I'm super excited about it because I feel like I love it when I do I mean, all of the podcasts are like this. Oh, also, freaking sorry guys, take my found you pass off. I hate it when I do that. No one told me. So yeah, what I want to make sure is that we're, you know, covering the things that are important for our lovely listeners today, but also, you know, getting into the, you know, content and things that you've done in your career that have powered you to get to where you are today. So shall we start by giving us a bit of the Janine story? Where did you get, you know, what kind of, you know, got you to the point from working in PR and comms to now, kind of, it is quite different what you're doing now, to then launching your own, you know, culture business?
Yeah. So, well, where do we start? I started working when I was 13, so I'm not even going to go down. There's a whole other podcast.
Wow.
I don't even know if that's illegal. Is that illegal?
Probably isn't. Oh, God, you've got to tell me now. Our listeners are going to love that. So, I saw that in our briefing, and I think we've spoken about it before.
Yeah.
So tell me about how and why you started work at 13.
Just, I guess, of a necessity, you know, my family background.
We've had some similar...
Yeah, we have. I didn't even know if I was going to talk about this today, actually. I don't usually just talk about it, not because I don't want to be authentic, but it's just, you know, I didn't ever want that to define me and who I am. But I started working from a really young age to support myself. Had a mum who suffered from mental health issues and a stepfather who died when I was doing my A-levels. So, and he wasn't a very kind man. And so I think just in terms of a work ethic, and this comes into it as well when we talk about culture and Gen Z. And I think, you know, when it comes to work ethic, it was really, really hard work ethic. And so definitely not the entitled geriatric millennial that a lot of people say we were back then. I studied public relations, I think because I watched something on This Morning and it said that every day was different. And I thought, yes, you know, I'm quite creative. I'd done psychology A-level, economics and English lit. And that just felt like a really nice combination of all those skills. So thought, I'll study public relations. But then I actually ended up working in football.
I know. Honestly,
for 2 years.
We have so many cross paths.
I know.
I'm surprised we didn't meet before.
I know. So I worked for a Brazilian soccer coaching school for 2 years, and it was the most amazing, mental, fascinating experience that anyone out of uni could have gone through. I mean, it was male dominated, so you had to really hold your own. The things I saw, the experiences I got. We'd have, you know, big name footballers come on tour with us. We got Socrates over, who was like, you know, massive at the time. Back in the day, he played for Brazil, and he was on the winning World Cup team. We got him to play for Garforth Football Club. Every single national newspaper, you know, and TV station was there. It was like one of those amazing experiences. But then I felt like I really needed to sort of move on and go into agency land. And so my background there, I mean, I've worked with every industry imaginable, I think, you know, some big name brands like PepsiCo, Nestle, Bupa, Hilton. Who have I missed? I don't know. There's so many. And so really big agencies, also some small independents. That took me to Sydney, did a stint in London for a while, worked for Mary Portas, Queen of Shops.
No
for
way.
2 years.
Do you want to know a really interesting fact?
Yeah.
Not really a fact, but just a thing that happened. I shared a bedroom with her wife.
Oh, wow.
And mother of their son.
Yeah.
At the body camp in Mallorca a couple of years ago, because I went just before my 40th. So Melanie Hickey, who used to be the editor of Grazia. she was my roomie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went from football to fashion, man. That was
I was
like one of the
gonna say,
first.
big jump.
Yeah, big jump. Wasn't quite for me, to be honest. Like I quite like the mix of male and female working environments. There were a lot of toxic females back then. I don't even know back then, but it exists now. But it was just, it's about finding the right environment for you, isn't it? And so, I spent some time working in London, then went over to Sydney, and oh my gosh, that was such a fun country to work in.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's this misconception that like Aussies, they finish work at 4 and I'll run down to the beach. It wasn't, it was more like you'd go to a spin class at 6 a.m. and that really suited me.
Yeah.
And my lifestyle. But some of the campaigns we worked on, like I was going down a bit of a nostalgic route just now, having a coffee, thinking like, what can I talk about? And some of the campaigns, like, I don't think they'd even be allowed to be done now. It was, things like Schick razors, that was Wilkinson's sword here as we know it. So there was this campaign that we did. It was to promote like the shaver that, that would sculpt a face. So Gillette at the time was coming out with like, all these like smoochy adverts of men that are clean shaving and kissing women. And we just did this massive campaign. It was like, men with facial hair have more sex. It was massive. But it was a challenger brand. You could be a bit cheeky. I was always a bit of a rebel when it came to stuff like that. So and then spent some time in Australia and then moved back to the UK. Had my first son, Jack, and I was at the time working for Debenhams on a fixed maternity contract because I didn't really want to be employed by anyone while I was having kids. I'd seen what happened to many women, especially in agency land, and I thought, I just don't want to be that woman that sort of has to sneak out, and I want it to be on my terms. So from then I was on a 4-day working week and I did some amazing contracts. And for Debenhams, I launched Debenhams into Australia. So that was the perfect role for me. And then Darren got offered a job. My husband got offered the job in Singapore and we went over there to have my second. And there I worked. And what I didn't realise is that Singapore is one of the hardest working countries. Like the hours were long, the expectations from clients was just on another level. And whilst I have always been a grafter, it started to get the better of me. I started to burn out. I was studying, this is probably not helpful, but I was studying positive psychology in the evenings whilst pregnant with a toddler and working. So, but then I started studying positive psychology and thought, why are we not applying more of this to the workplace? Like, know your purpose. People need meaning. Let's look at people's strengths, not people's weaknesses. And started thinking we should apply a lot of this at work. And I was on the leadership team with a bunch of directors who really cared, as well as the MD. But the client work always came first, and that was the thing, right? So, then I started talking to Louisa, my co-founder, and thought, we've got a business here if we want it to like offer what we, an agency style setup for culture, because culture is always on, but just to guide companies, to show them how to do it in a way that doesn't need to, take up all the time, but just to, put people first, culture foundations in place. So that was sort of the birth of HappyHQ. From Louisa's side, she's been running I Love My Job, which is a positive impact B Corp recruitment company. So she's been hearing, for years and years why people are leaving their jobs and not being able to fix it. And so, we sort of collaborated as friends and that was it.
And here you are.
Yeah.
I mean, first up, what an amazing career. But one, also thank you for being so vulnerable, because I do think it's important for us to understand. I mean, there's so many things I want to dig into now. So I'm going to go two things, more kind of cultural stuff for you that I really noticed kind of spoke to me when you were chatting just then. First is that kind of, you don't need to work hard to get ahead attitude that the younger generations seem to have sometimes. I hope that my daughter, she definitely doesn't have that. But there is this, and I see a lot of this content on LinkedIn, which I love, but it's like, oh, don't work too hard. You take your time. the reality to me is the people that work hard are the people that get ahead. So there's this kind of echo chamber happening with the younger, and I do think they're going to hit, a wall at some point, and they're going to get into trouble. Whereas, by doing less, I'm going to get ahead in life. Unfortunately, you're not. I'm not saying that you should be working from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and doing 12-hour days, but hard work pays off, and that is actual facts. Like you can't get ahead if you're doing less. If you don't care, if you're not showing up, if you're not putting effort in, then you're not going to get ahead in life. And there's this real echo chamber of people, mainly probably Gen Zers, talking about, I need my time out. I need to, do less hours, which is lovely. But the reality is you will get left behind because there will be people that are doing more. It doesn't have to necessarily be about putting the hours in, but there'll be people that care more, that are interested. Like you say, you spent a lot of your free time studying, psychology because you're interested in it, and it's enabled you to get ahead and launch your own business. Yes, I have been at various different points in my life at the point of burnout where I did similar. I was working, running, doing my job, but also studying to do a, marketing postgrad, which I actually ended up failing. But I was studying 3 nights a week. I was doing really long days. I was hosting our international brands in the UK when they came over from Poland or wherever, we had Viva over vodka or whatever it, coming over. So I did burn out, but I learned so much and I wanted to do it because I cared, because I was passionate. And I think what sometimes they're lacking is that passion and the time and the want to get ahead. And I don't know how we balance that with, yes, taking time out and going for a walk at lunchtime. But the reality is you've got, if you want to get ahead, you've got to put the work in. Doing less does not mean you get more out of your career, in my mind.
It's a hard one, a really hard one, because on one hand, I think, we've got language now like boundaries that we definitely, let's be honest,
we have no boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know whether that is a good or a bad, a bad thing. I look back on my career and everything I've just just regurgitated back at you in a really short space of time.
Great.
It's massive, it's massive. I don't regret a thing.
No.
I don't regret a thing. I slept under my desk once, because
we worked bloody hard. We used to get pizzas bought for us, when I was working at agencies, and be working in the office till midnight.
Yeah.
The guys think that they're working hard now. I can tell you now, they're not working till midnight. We had pitch teams working till 2, 3 in the morning, sometimes all the way through the night. And that was the norm. Now, I'm not saying that is what should be done, but that was the reality, and we were passionate and we wanted to get ahead. We wanted to win that client. We wanted to do the work. Now, if someone's got to work till 6:30, they're pissed off. And I'm like, guys, and I'm not saying that for my staff, but just in general stuff that I see, that they've done an hour's overtime and they're like, oh yeah, I've done more than you're paying me for. But it wasn't like that. We would put the time in that we needed to put in. And then, some weeks when it was quieter, you'd take that time back to a certain extent, or go on a 2-hour lunch break or whatever it is. I think it was, you did it because you loved it. And I feel like we're the way the world's going. Again, I don't know what the answer is here, but I don't know, maybe it's just different attitudes and different people. But there's a lot of this culture that is, we don't need to do that, so we're not going to do it. And it damages businesses. And I do think the people that are like that, they're going to get their comeuppance at some point, because there'll be people that do want to put the effort in, that are happy to put the extra time in when needed, not all the time, but in a fair and sensible way. I'm not advocating having to do pitches till 2 in the morning and eating pizza, but
It's a really hard one for me as a culture consultant.
Yeah, I know. What's your view on it? How do we create a culture that means hard work pays off and people, get something back from it?
Yeah. So right now we have 3 generations working together. The oldest Gen Z is 27. By 2030, it's predicted that 58% of people in the workplace will be Gen Zers. Yeah. Right. It's a hard one. I have stood on stage and talked about how Gen Z are redefining the workplace. I know you've done a lovely episode. I loved that with your daughter. I actually listened to that the other day. We we put people into boxes. And that's what worries me. If we call all Gen Zs lazy, I reckon for everyone, there's a lazy one. There's 10 that aren't.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that we just got to be really careful about stereotyping and this is where it all comes back to culture and knowing and really discovering and nailing your company values, because you're hiring people based on values. You're saying here at this company, let's say excellence is a value. Unless this is how excellence looks here. If you're not prepared to be this, then you're not for here. And I think that's where, like, I believe that all companies like really have a duty to lay that out on paper before, because and then that really, prevents all this whole like, they're talking to me about boundaries or whatever. Like, obviously burnout. Like, when it comes to burnout, there's loads of study that's been done that is saying that Gen Z are the most stressed generation, whether we like to hear that or not, because we can get into the habit of being back in my day, and I'm like, oh no, now I'm starting to sound like my granddad.
Yeah, I know. You do.
I don't want to be that.
And the world's changed, right? So it is different now.
Yeah, and what always surprises me, and what I always love is in situations where I'm in workshops and an older generation person might say, all Gen Z are lazy. It's like that statement's it's loaded. And I always love it when there's always team exercises and things like that. And I can spot the Gen Zs in the room and I think, you go guys, when it comes to presenting back. And they always do an amazing job. And then you think, well, we've just got different characteristics that we're bringing to the workplace. They're way more social savvy. They're way more tech savvy. I was just talking to your work experience girl before waiting for you to come in, and she's telling me she's going to go and learn about crypto. So, wow, that's blown my mind. Like, the world of work is changing. And I think, on one hand, this whole like, I won't stay until 6:30. I think flexibility works and balance works in two ways, especially in the, industry I came from. It was very like peaks and troughs in events and things like that. You suck it up. You suck it up when you need to. You get ahead. You know that it's going to be good for your career in the long term.
Yeah.
Don't work the 9 to 5, I believe, shouldn't really exist anyway.
It's gone. Yeah.
So I think, it comes down to work ethic. And I think like not all Gen Zs are lazy for sure, but I think, if they're in an echo chamber of, well, we deserve this or we deserve that and we shouldn't, it's not them against us. It's like, how can we work together here? Because that's going to be the future of work.
Yeah. I love that. I'm literally thinking, because we're posting some job ads at the moment. I'm like, oh, need to go and add, or for some reason I haven't put our values into our job ads, and absolutely should. One of our values is about being extra, and it's like, that means, sometimes that might mean extra time, but more your attitude is you want to do things better. You want to put the extra effort in. You want to, and that is, that's probably my most important value at Street, is like, what can we do extra to delight that client? What can we do extra to, so we have that kind of extra mentality across the whole agency. If someone doesn't buy into that and they're not like that, they shouldn't be applying for the job. And I think that's really important. We forget to we have these internal values, but you've got to communicate them, not just through, we were talking about this at the beginning, your marketing, because you're marketing, to your clients. My clients love the fact that we're extra, of course. It's a big part of probably why they work with us, but also really important for the team, because if they're not like that, then they probably shouldn't work here.
Look at culture. When you define what culture is, like, it's so complex and it's changing, it's dynamic. But when you really boil it down, it's everything you do. Yeah. Every email you send, the way you interact with me, the way the reception person greets me at the door, that's culture. It's everything we do. Yeah. So if you're employing someone to come and work for you, damn right, those values are really important, because they're showing you how things are done here. Yeah. They're defining it. And so I think, I harp on all the time about values. And I'll tell you this, though, when I worked in agencies, I can't remember any of the values. No. I literally can't. Like, I remember being in a pitch once and hearing my MD present the values that were an acronym for the name and thinking, right, well, this is the first time I'm seeing this. One of them was entrepreneurial. So I sat him down afterwards and said, so you want me to be entrepreneurial here, right? So I can go off and I can find new revenue streams and whatnot. Yes, that's exactly what I want you to do. Great. Well, we should probably have this chat in the interview because now I'm thriving here, and I'm
excited about my job, and I'm excited about what this means.
The possibility. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think, nailing values is massive.
Yeah, values and actually living that. There's very, like you say, so many businesses, agencies, have these values and they're hidden, and the staff don't even know, or they're made up based on an acronym of a name and they don't actually mean anything. I mean, in that case they did, but the amount of times I've worked at agencies, in fact I won't say, but one of my first clients at Street, they didn't have any values, and I was like, you don't have any values, you've got a HR person, no, we don't need them. You absolutely need them, because that is everything for me. I mean, they were a huge agency, huge part of one of the biggest agency networks in the world, and this agency had no values. And the CEO was like, we don't need them. I was like, what? You don't need values. You don't need, how can your staff get behind the mission? It's just about doing the work otherwise. And they actually had a really great culture, so it was an odd one. But yeah, I'm so with you on that, and making sure that they represent. I mean, sorry, we're going off in all sorts of tangents here, which I always do on this podcast. But how do you, for me, my values have been quite easy because we're a small business. Really, my values are about me, and I feel that that's important because I am the founder of the agency. And the reality is the values have to represent my way of thinking, because I'm the founder of the business, and that's kind of that's what it's born from. But when businesses grow, when they evolve, that can become a little bit more complex. So if you're starting out going, gosh, how on earth do we even define our values? Where should businesses go to start to look internally?
Yeah, so this is exactly what we do, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Well, there you go. Loaded question.
One thing I would say is, and that's exactly right, by the way, for your values, because if you were going to multiply Katie by 10, you're who will take you to the future, your future vision for Street Agency. So it's about looking at those people, those promoters, not your detractors, your promoters in the company, and going, right, if we were going to multitude what they bring, how can we create more of them? Not in a way where we're sort of, creating this, being undiverse in our thinking, but just in a way where the values will take us to the moon and back. So firstly, I'd say the sooner you can get down and get your values nailed, the better. We work with companies that are like startups right through to one that's now 200 years young. It becomes a lot harder when you've got more people and you've been around for longer, because you've got differing opinions, different generations. So I'd say the sooner you can get cracking, the better. And go on a journey of discovery with everyone. So they're co-created ideally. So you want to be asking questions like, how do we behave when we're working at our best in a team? All those things, like what makes us unique, what makes us different to our competitors, like what are the behaviours that won't, get us to the future. And really it's about bringing everyone together, brainstorming, we do a process of elimination. We end up with a few, we work on them, but it's about finding stories that back them up as well, because you want to make sure there's this mixture of them being very core, like how we are now, with an element of aspirational as well, because will they take us to the future?
Oh, I love that. I mean, that's the key, isn't it? It's all, we're all trying to grow, but I think in the unstable market that we've got at the moment, it's not, you've got to be true, and you've also got to, like you say, be future focused, because otherwise, you stay stagnant. And actually in the way the world currently is, you've got to work even harder at these things.
And I'd also say as well, stick to about, no more than about 3 to 5, because you're supposed to be guided by them daily. They should, we talk about getting them off the walls, whack them on the walls, actually. Name rooms after them. Have values rec awards where people are being given an award every month for for embodying that value. Let them live on. If you look at companies like Airbnb, Patagonia, and you dissect how they run it operationally, their values are through and through every day. They make big decisions based on their values. We have clients that now go in and rather than give them the whole spiel about the company, they just present the values. And it's like, this is how we work here. And also, like if we've got a value that's called something like kind to the core, and we don't feel as a client that you're being kind to our people, then we can't work with you. So I think there becomes, there's a role that values play in terms of values alignment as well, for especially if you're B2B. As well. Yeah. And have fun with it. Name them. Like, don't use words like integrity.
Oh God, the same things everyone. Yeah, like ours are like always be extra.
Yeah.
For instance, like that. They represent hopefully us, and they're fun. You're making me think. Gosh, I literally, as you're talking, I'm going right. I need to brief into the designer to get some artwork for because it's on my long list, and we do forget the values if they're not front and center. So we've done things in the past where we've, I don't know, made them our screensavers or, put them, like you say, everyone works from home a little bit more now. And we've got a kind of, hybrid working environment where I've got some of my team in London and some here. Yeah. But you're actually making sure that it's present, that you're able to live and breathe them. That, like you say, that maybe you're doing things like congratulating people or giving them an award every month for representing one of the values in the best way, because then people start to embody them and know what they are and remember how they, and build your KPIs around them.
Exactly.
Like, that kind of stuff is, we forget to, I don't know why we forget to do it, but it's the key to having a happy culture.
Operationally, it makes really good business sense because you're allowing people, you're empowering people to go off. You talk about KPIs, we use objectives and key results. So when we're measuring success, say you do 90-day goals, say, and you're reviewing how people have gone, like in appraisals now, what's that called where you go up? An axis, right?
Yes.
You can have an axis,
Axis. I think it's axis.
Axes.
Yeah, that's probably what it actually is.
And on one line, it's like, how aligned with our values were you, and the other, what was your performance? So you could be performing really well, but you could be an absolute dick.
Yeah.
Do and you're not you're not embodying the values, or you can completely be embodying the values, but you're just not performing. So it's like you can only ever be like a 5 if you're both, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I will share you the drawing afterwards.
Yeah. But, please. We'll put it in the show notes.
I think it's just really important then, because it's not just, you're not just measuring people on skill and performance, but also how much they're embodying the culture that you want.
Yeah, exactly, because that makes the business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now, we spoke at the beginning about this, the correlation between marketing and culture, and how obviously your culture is almost your marketing to your staff. But I want to make another correlation, which I think is super important, especially if you're a service business out there, because your staff are your product.
Yes.
At the end of the day. So if you're running an agency, if you're running, even if you are, a lot of my lovely listeners, are running brand campaigns, or working at huge brands running marketing, or tech companies running marketing and sales campaigns.
Yeah.
So actually, I think this is the way the world has changed. It doesn't even matter whether you're selling a product or service, but probably more important for service businesses. The reality is people buy people, right? So when you're a small business, I put myself out there a lot because I just do. But I can, the businesses is also marketed through me and my personality.
Yeah.
So larger businesses, you often need to show your people and your culture, because when I sell something, people are buying me, and obviously they're buying my team, and we have got plans in our marketing plan to show more of the people and show more of the culture of Street, because people buy into that, and then therefore they'll buy us. Yeah. It's the same really for any business. Like, your people need to represent your values, and you need to be able to show them off and show, like, the content campaigns that we run for our clients now, it's all people-centered.
Yeah.
People buy people. So culturally, your people need to be happy.
Yeah.
And you've got to be confident that they embody your business and your, what you do in a great way. So for me, culture is more important than ever, because we're entering this era of, we actually rebranding it, not personal branding, but professional branding.
Yeah.
So in order to have, for your employees to have a fantastic professional brand, they've got to understand your culture and be happy because they're your front of house.
Yeah. And we always talk about net promoter scores, say, but here you can have an employer net promoter score. So before we work with any client, we always figure out what their employer net promoter score is. So that's basically working out what percentage of promoters they have from detractors. So you sort of know then, like, right, you've got people that are actively going out and recommending this company as a great place to work. They're talking about your company in a great way to clients. They're the people that are going to magnetize and bring in, you know, future business for you. I think it is so important. Yeah,
it's the future. It's the way it's all going. It's gone are the days of marketing businesses with boring, bland marketing content. Now it's people-centered.
Yeah.
It's people-first approach.
Yeah.
So if you haven't got your culture nailed, you're going to really struggle to do that well.
Yeah. And it all starts with pre-boarding, like not even, obviously in the interview process, you're explaining what the culture is, but we talk about onboarding. No, get people excited before they even join that first day. Like let them know about your values, like tell them stories, like let them know about exactly what to expect and they'll feel like part of the team already.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Your marketing that you do for your business, if you're taking that people-centered approach, which I absolutely think businesses should be, that really helps people understand your culture before they even apply for the amount of applications we get going, we love your content, we really want to work with you, because they feel that they know us before they've even applied for the job. And I think that's super important.
Yeah. All that behind the scenes, lovely content.
Yeah. Watch this space, guys. I just recorded some. So on that, there's a whole other question, which was my question 2 from your intro, which we're going to actually go off and record, spoiler alert, in a minute. But I wanted to get from you, before we close this episode off, some tips that you have for our audience when it comes to creating that happy culture. If there's a couple of things that they can go and do today to get started on this mission, because we know it's not just going to help them, keep their staff happy and get their staff doing better work, but also potentially help them attract and win new clients. What should they do?
I think, first of all, listening to people and getting a read on how people are feeling is massive. Start small. Don't ask too many questions and you can't do anything with the answers, because you're going to get yourself into a whole, world of trouble there, where people say, hang on a minute, I gave you my feedback and now where's the response? So I think asking people how they're feeling, maybe that ENVP score, so employer net promoter score, is key. Nailing that purpose, if you haven't already defined why you exist, that's for a greater good beyond profit. Why are we all here? Get people excited. People want to know that they're not just there for salary or paycheck, that they're actually, the work that they're doing, even if they're an intern, is going towards some kind of greater good that makes them feel good. Nail those values as well if you can. It's also, I think it's the way you look at culture. It's not an overnight, it's not a tick box. It's always on.
Yeah.
So I think just knowing that it's, don't describe your culture as well as we've got endless amounts of beer in the fridge and we've got Friday night socials and stuff. Stop describing culture as the benefits, because they're just benefits and perks. Describe the culture as, this is the sort of career you're going to get when you come here. This is, you're going to have these goals. This is what you're working towards. This is the vision. You're part of this team. They're the things that people really want.
Gosh, you're making me think about so much, Janine. I'm sure my lovely listeners are as well, in terms of things that I need to go and change on our website, in our content and in our job ads. So yeah, thank you so much. Now, the other thing you spoke about was when you were employed, feeling like when you were pregnant, you needed to take that control. And I think a lot of women have felt like that. It's really, really hard when you're pregnant. You want to be really excited to tell your employer, but it often it's not frowned upon, but oh my gosh, I don't care about my job because I'm pregnant. You should be really excited.
Yeah.
So there's some really, I think personally, seismic change that needs to happen in businesses to give us women, one, the opportunity to be happy when we fall pregnant, but also, make the workplace a bit fairer. So, guys, if you're interested in listening to that, we're going to go off now. We're going to close this episode and you'll have to tune in next week. So go and subscribe to listen to me and Janine talking about exactly how we can make some changes to make the workplace fairer. And the things that you've experienced that meant that you had to go and do your own thing. So thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Me and Janine are now going to go and talk about, pregnancy, women in the workplace, the bad experiences that we've both had.